What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another Vintage Kenner Star Wars market update, and we're going to focus today on mint on card items, and I'm spanning the gamut from early card backs to ESB. I think I've got some Ewoks, all kinds of good stuff in here, a tri-logo or two, and some rare Spanish stuff as well. So, as always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys allow this channel to happen. Patreon.com/actionfiguregrader is where you can go to sign up. All right, let's start off with a couple of beautiful Revenge of the Jedi 48 back Empire Strikes Back cards, and they are two bounty hunters. The first one is Zuus, clear blister, unpunched. It was a beauty, and I was not sure where this one was going to end up, but it looks like a good solid 80 grade to me. It looks awfully nice for Zuus here, and it sold for $652. I've seen kind of all over the map lately for this one, and admittedly it was a yellow blister. The last one I saw that sold for like $440. I knew it would go for higher than that, just given that it was unpunched, no price sticker, and clear blister. So, you just never know, though, in this market where it's kind of somewhat dependent upon who's out there looking when that auction is ending. But this one did end Tuesday night at 7:10 Central, and the bids came fast and furious at the very end. $652 took that home. And then here was Forom. This one was a punched example with a price sticker, and I know who bought this one. Congrats. I'm not going to say who because I'm going to let him talk about it on his channel, but this one is a really nice looking example of the Forom, and this is I would call this one like the poor man's debut card. This one, I think there is a 48 back offer list that's considered the rarity, and there's like only a handful known, but most people consider this one the poor man's Forom debut card because there's not many of the offer list 48 backs out there for Forom. Obviously his debut was on the 48 back because the 47 back for the Empire Strikes Back was the free mail-away offer for the Forom. So it's a very desirable card, and I think that this one will hit an 80. It's going to be tight, but that was my estimate when I was talking to the person who ended up getting it. $274 I thought was a steal of a deal, and congrats. You know who you are. I'll let you talk about it, but it's a really nice looking example. Speaking of Forom, here was Jeff's Collectible Empire. He had a number of different awesome vintage mint on cards at auction, and the first one is this Forom on the transition card, free Neonum offer, Return of the Jedi 48 back. So it was graded CAS 80, and as I talked about in my What to Buy video a couple of weeks back, I thought it might be slightly overgraded just because of that non-color breaking crease in the upper right hand corner, but it did get the 80, 85, 80. And, is it an 80? I don't know. It's 75 plus probably at AFA, but it's still nice. And it sold for $217.50, which is a steal. It did have some very light yellowing to the blister, but I think at $217.50, it's hard to pass that up no matter what you think of the grade. And he also had a couple of Luke Farm Boys. The first one is a blonde-haired Luke on the 40... let's see, this is the 21 back. So this is the transition card 21 back for the mail-away Bosk offer. So very desirable card back. It was an AFA 75, card 75, blister 80, figure 75. And, it looks like it's got some issues on the Luke there. A little bit of a loose shoulder there, and then I don't know what's going on the paint on his face. That looks kind of wonky there. So that's why it got the 75 grade for the figure score. But it was a clear blister. It is a transition card, and it was an AFA 75 clear blister. Really nice, and it sold for $1,028. And then here was the other Luke Farm Boy. This is the hard-to-find, very dark brown-haired Luke Farm Boy on the 47 back free Forom offer. So there it is. And it's just one of those variants that's tough to track down. He only appeared on some Empire Strikes Back card backs, as well as the transition Return of the Jedi 48 back free Neonum offer. This one was graded 70 plus, so not super high grade, but it's the dark brown hair. It's very, very tough to find this one, and that's why it sold for as much as it did, despite it only being a 70 plus grade. It sold for $1,075. Jeff's Collectible Empire also had this 20 back G Death Squad Commander, and I said it would probably sell for between $800 and $850. It sold at $830, so I was pretty close on that one. 80, 80, 85 were the sub scores for an overall 80 grade. Really nice example. Now, it did have a price sticker, but it was unpunched, so I think it's worth every bit of $830. That's a number I would have paid all day long. Very, very nice example and right in line with fair market value. He also had the rectangular extension sticker Jawa on the 20 back H. So you can see there on the back, it's got this offer extended until 12/31/1980. So this is for the mail-away Boba Fett. And obviously they slapped that sticker to cover up the rocket firing aspect of it. But anytime you start getting into the nitty gritty with these 20 backs with extension stickers and, you know, which one has blacked out stickers versus the yellow sticker, things like that. I've lost count of how many different 20 backs there are. But this one was the Jawa. AFA 80, 80, 85, 85 were the subscores. Beautiful example. It looks to be punched. Yeah, punched example. No price sticker, maybe a little sticker residue or something up there, although that might just be reflections by the ages 4 and up. But very nice example, and that one sold for $778, which I thought was a good deal. I would have paid that as well. Next up is the Survival Kit Offer 41 back A Ugnaught. This one was a punched example with the ugly Toys R Us price sticker graded AFA 80, 80, 80, 85, and I don't know why this one sold for $820. Someone can please explain that to me, because I've got this one. I've got this exact item in an AFA 85, straight 85s, unpunched, no price sticker. And I paid, and admittedly, it was a long time ago. All right, I'm dating myself here, but I paid like $350 for mine at most. And this one sold for $820, and I have no idea why. So maybe somebody can explain why this one went so high, because it doesn't, you know, it looks like it is an unpunched example, but look at all the scratches on the case. I'm assuming those are scratches and not AFA greater hair that's inside the case, but I have no idea why this one sold for $820. Just completely mind-blowing to me, especially because it looks to me like the blister is starting to yellow a little bit on the left-hand side. It could be reflections, you know, but I'm at a loss as to why that sold for $820. If that's worth $820, then my AFA 85 has got to be worth $1,000. But that's a crazy number to me. Next up was the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight on the 79 back B. Card got a 75, blister 85, figure 90. Wow, what a beauty. Only light yellowing on this one as well, and that one sold for $510. Luke Jedis have come down in price. If you guys haven't noticed that in my Mint on Card market updates, they have really come back down to earth. I mean, for a while there, this would sell for like $600, $700, $750 even. And, you know, to me, it's only got very light yellowing, which, you know, most of the Return of the Jedi US cards, especially for Luke Jedi, they yellow. I mean, that's just a fact. And this one only has very light yellowing. It's an AFA 80. And to get it for $510, that's a number I'd pay in a heartbeat. That's a great deal. Paplu, this is the Made in Mexico Lily Letty. You can see the little hole punch there by Anakin. And you can see down there at the bottom of the card in the middle is the figure Made in Mexico. So this is a Lily Letty graded 80 plus, 80, 85, 85 were the subscores on this 79 back C. Paplu for the U.S. market. So $319 on that one. That's probably about right. I mean, I see them sell ungraded for $200 to $250. You add in the grading costs and the fact that it's an 80 plus to get it for $319. That's a price I'd pay as well. Here was an AFA 85 Lando Calrissian on the Power of the Force card. Now, this one was straight 85s for the subscore. It was unpunched, no price sticker, and look how the blister looks. It's hardly got any yellowing whatsoever on this one. And it sold for $708. To me, that's a fair market value. I don't think it's a steal, but it's certainly better than some of the examples I've seen sell at Hakes that are in the same grade that have sold for quite a bit more here recently. So I think that was a really good buy there. And, you know, I'm not into Power of the Force personally, but if you are, to get straight 85s with only very light yellowing to the blister on this General Lando for $708, I think that's a good buy. Next up is the Lady Gornish from the Star Wars Ewoks line, graded AFA 80, 80, 85, 90, and it was clear blister as well. And that one sold for $256, no price sticker and unpunched. That was a steal of a deal. I love the card art on these. I don't own any. I probably will never own any, but I do love looking at the card art. It's just a really nice example there. Next up was the Tri-Logo Lando Calrissian in his Skiff card disguise. That one was graded AFA 75 plus. 75, 75, 85 were the subscores. So not perfect, and, you know, you could argue that it sold for fair market value. I would say that, you know, ungraded in similar condition, you'd probably even sneak in 150 to 175 in an auction. Okay, but 255, is it an overpay? Maybe slightly. I don't know. To me, it's fair market value. I'd probably pay that myself, but I do think that you could probably buy one in similar or better condition and grade it yourself for about the same price. I mean, I picked up one ungraded on eBay for like $150. It did get the 80 from CAS, and so I was into it maybe $200, and you could argue that it's probably about the same condition as this one. So it's not a drastic overpay if it was an overpay, but $255. I mean, it's hard to beat a mint on card already graded in fairly high grade. 75 plus is fairly high grade for $255. So I'm not going to bang anybody on that one. Next up is an AFA 80 Revenge of the Jedi FX7. So this is the 48 back B. So this is where the offer is actually printed, or excuse me, this is where the offer is actually a sticker. The 48C is where they moved over to the printed Revenge of the Jedi offer. So this one was graded 80. It was yellowed blister, very lightly yellowed. I can't see any yellowing personally, but it says it's yellowed. It's unpunched. 80, 80, 85 were the subscores. That one sold for $255. That is a bargain because, you know, it's one thing if it was like heavily yellowed, but it's very slight, you know. I'm actually surprised that it's yellowed, but I think if you looked at it closely, it's, yeah, you can see right here on the blue portion, you can see where it's very slightly yellowed. But I mean, to me, that's the kind of yellowing I could live with, right? That presents a lot nicer than $255 to me for an ESB Droid on a pretty desirable card back. To me, $255 is a good deal. Next up, here's one. This is the 41 back A survival kit offer Death Star Droid. And this one sat for a little bit. I think I had it on a what to buy video like a month ago. And nobody bought it. It finally did sell at $800 or best offer. It says it sold for $800, but who knows? I didn't look it up on 130point.com to see if that was truly the sale price. But it was a really nice example. I think that would grade an 80. And it was pretty clean looking, clear blister. So it says it sold for $800. It could have been something south of that, but that's what it says. I wanted to show this one. This is not technically a mint on card. I know that because the blister had fallen off of this PBP Forom with the red armor. And it was graded AFA 85, but the blister fell off. And as Scott H noted, that it looks like the weapon also fell out of the hole right here. So you can see there was a hole in the case from damage coming back from AFA, and apparently the weapon fell out. So who knows? But I wanted to show it on the what to buy video, and I was curious to see what it sold for. I said personally, I probably wouldn't spend more than $450 on it. Personally, it sold for $511, so I was a little low. But you know, PBP Foroms, I don't think there's any special kind of like mold difference. There is a specific weapon that it goes with, but I think it's a Hong Kong variation. There's like a dull variant. There's one with a pinhole on it. You can get into the minutia on it. I did look it up on Variant Villain or Imperial Gunnery, one of those websites, and it did say that the PBP Forom did come with a specific molded blaster, but I think it also was available with Hong Kong figures. So chances are you could track one down fairly easily. The hard part is the figure, right? This is the red armor PBP Forom. It's a very desirable variant. And, you know, ungraded complete, they can go for $350 to $450. I think I paid about $400 for mine, maybe $350. So, you know, is $511 too high? Maybe, because you don't have the weapon and you got to track that down, but it does include the blister as well as the card back. So I think you could probably track down the weapon, take it all, send it to CAS for preserved grading, and it would look really awesome, and you could add some value to your collection. But it's a shame that the weapon fell out, but that is what it is. Here's one where the blister did not fall off. This is a PBP C-3PO Miscard. So this is on the removable limbs card back, but it's the actual first 12. And you can see there it says C-3PO removable limbs, C-3PO Miscard. And that happened a lot with these particular card backs, the Return of the Jedi PBP, El Returno del Jedi C-3PO removable limbs. I see a lot of examples like this where they just slapped in a first 12 C-3PO into this particular card back. It was graded AFA 75 and it sold for a lot of money. It sold for $1,025. So that was a stunner. Beautiful foreign example, and those always go for big money on the secondary market. This seller, two dips for me. I think I've bought from this seller. If not, I've definitely covered this seller in the past. This was a shame. So this is further proof what I've talked about in the past about I've gotten letters, I've gotten emails, I've gotten, not letters, but you know what I mean. Like I've been contacted and people have said, I want to invest in collectibles. I want to buy 12 backs and hold on to them for 20 years and then resell them. It'll be another asset class for me. Do you recommend doing that? Here's an example why you wouldn't do that. This is a 12 back C Sand People and it has yellowed since grading. It's got straight 85s for the subscore, 12 back C, and look how much it's yellowed. You can see how much the blister has yellowed. So this grading label is no longer valid. It's still sold for $13.50, but a 12 back C Sand People that is appropriately labeled yellowed blister, I don't think it would sell this high. Me personally, somebody bought this that probably didn't do their homework. That's my guess. Okay, no offense if you happen to buy this. My personal opinion is that once it's yellowed since grading, the price really drops on these 12 backs. And you know, to me, this grading label is no longer valid. You'd have to send it back in. You don't have to, but if you wanted a valid grading label, you would send it back in. They probably wouldn't change the grade on it or the subscores, but they would note it as yellowed instead of not yellowed. So to me, $13.50 is too much to pay for this for a 12 back C. Now, if it was a 12 back A, I could see that. A 12 back C yellowed blister 85, I don't think it sells for $13.50 in an auction situation. That's my personal opinion, and I might get blasted for that, but there you go. Here's a 12 back B Ben Kenobi from the same seller, gray hair, AFA 85, straight 85s for the subscore. It was a punched example with a price sticker. That one sold for $22.50. Now that's in line with market. I think that that's not too far off of market value, if not a pretty fair price to pay. The Sand People, not so much. That's my personal opinion. Toy Scout had a few items for sale. I'm only going to show a couple. The first one is a 12 back Stormtrooper. It did have some damage to the card, as you can see right here. Big crease going down the card back, but it was a 12 back unpunched with a price sticker. That one sold for $565 in an auction. And then they also had the Death Squad Commander that sold for $580. And neither one were perfect. They had some scratches and things like that. I would say the Death Squad Commander was in better shape. And despite it being a lesser character than the Stormtrooper, because it was in better condition than the Stormtrooper, it did sell for slightly higher at $580. Finally, I wanted to show you this Princess Leia. This is a 41 back E, I believe. It was a clear blister, but it had some major damage on the left-hand side there, as you can see there. It had a big ding going on the left-hand side of the blister, right here. You can see there, it's got a big ding. Somebody dropped it. Poor Princess Leia got dropped. And you can see even inside the blister, the limbs, her legs and arms are not the same color as her torso. So this one is discoloring inside the blister, just like we talk about. But it still sold for $1,000. Is that a fair price? Probably. Probably not too far off. It's probably a 75 plus grade condition, 41 back E, Princess Leia offer list. It looks really nice. It presents really nicely. And I think in a auction situation, it probably would sell for less, but not much less. Probably $850, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe $900. So anyway, just some more examples of recent sales on eBay. I hope you found this information helpful. Thanks as always for watching. Please consider subscribing, and I'll be back soon.